Go ahead and call to order the May 21, 2020 Delta Protection Commission meeting via Zoom. And last time I think we struggled a little bit with it, but I believe we're going to have a flag this evening. Eric, were you able to figure that part out?
Yes, I believe we do have a flag queued up.
Very good. All right. So if you will please stand, join me for the pledge on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United
States of America
and to the
republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Well, that was actually much better than last time. Didn't have a flag. So, all right. Thank you very much for that. So, so as a reminder, these Zoom meetings are challenging enough. So we ask everybody to please keep their phones or their computers on mute unless you are speaking. Makes it a little bit easier for everybody. We also ask, Eric, and I think this is right. So members of the public, are we asking them to mute as well? Or are we able to manage that part of the meeting?
We'll be managing that, and we ask the members of the public joining the call, if they wish to comment, if they could use the raise hand feature.
That's right. That's right. You want to explain how that works, or they're just pressing 2 if they're calling in, otherwise they're using the feature on the Zoom? Is that?
Yeah, if they're using the feature on the Zoom, they should look for the raise hand icon. If they're calling in by telephone, press #2. That will indicate that you would like to speak. And if for some reason you change your mind and decide you don't want to speak after you've asked to speak, you press #2 again, and that will remove your raised hand.
Very good. I'm sure we'll have to remind folks as we go along. So thank you for that. Okay, so Acting Commission Clerk Stacy Hayden will call the roll. Stacy, are you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you. I will begin. Chair Villegas.
Present.
Vice Chair Natoli. I'll call everybody's name twice just to remind them in case someone's on mute. Vice Chair Natoli. Commissioner Wynn.
Here.
Commissioner Burgess.
Here.
Commissioner Thompson.
Here.
Commissioner Krieg.
Here.
Commissioner Cabalden.
Here.
Commissioner Nakanishi. Commissioner Paroli. Sorry, I did say I was going to say everybody's name twice. So going back, Commissioner Nakanishi. Commissioner Paroli. Commissioner Slater.
Here.
Commissioner Ruiz. Commissioner Ruiz. Commissioner McElhenney.
Here.
Commissioner Lester Moffitt.
Present.
Commissioner Vogel.
Here.
Commissioner Bush.
Here.
Ex officio member Senator Kathleen Galgiani.
Marion Norris here.
I'm getting, yeah. I'm going to try that one more time. Senator Kathleen Galgiani. Assembly member Jim Frazier.
Here.
Thank you. Are there any commissioners that I have missed that have come on recently?
If I can take 1 minute to unmute the people who only called in by phone that we're unable to identify,
Okay.
you may get a commissioner or 2.
You might want to have them like raise their hands first. That way we don't run into that situation where we're unmuting them without their, knowledge.
Okay. Yes, so if any commissioner has joined by phone, #2 in sequence, those 2 numbers in sequence will raise your hand.
Okay, I see call-in user 255 and call-in user 570.
They've been unmuted.
Marion Norris here for Senator Galgiani. She's on another call. She shall try to join us as soon as possible.
And Supervisor Natoli, I've been on the line since the beginning.
Thank you.
So Supervisor Natoli, it's the last 5 digits are 570.
5570, 45570, yes.
Mr. Chair, I believe we have everyone accounted for who is on the meeting.
All right, perfect. Thank you very much. That's usually the hardest part of the meeting, is getting everybody situated to start. All right, so we want to first of all give a special thank you and a welcome to the newest commission member, Michael Krieg, an Oakley City Council member who represents the cities of Contra Costa and Solano counties, joined the commission earlier this month. Welcome, first of all. Did you want to say anything? You're not obligated to, but if you wanted to say anything, you're certainly, the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you. I'm new on the Oakley City Council, but I've been a resident of Contra Costa County for more than 40 years, and an environmentalist since I recognized the concept, maybe back sometime in the 1970s. I know that balancing the care of the Delta's environment and the Delta's economy are a challenge that doesn't get nearly enough attention, even from those of us who live here. And I'm just really honored to work with you all as we influence that process.
Very good. All right. Well, thank you very much, and welcome. All right. So then we also want to acknowledge Rio Vista Mayor Ron Cott, who his service representing the same. So he's departed, and so we want to thank him for his time and energy helping the Delta Protection Commission accomplish its objectives. All right, so that takes us to public comment, and this is for any items that are not on the agenda but within our jurisdiction. So does anybody, Stacy or Eric, are there any hands raised for public comment at this point?
I am not seeing any at this point.
All right, then we will move on. Let's see. So as the commission will recall, I had asked a few meetings back to have as a standing item the chair's report on the Delta stewardship activities, because as you know, as chair of the Delta Protection Commission, you also serve as a 2-year stint on the Stewardship Council. And there was a lot of moving parts to the Stewardship Council's work. And so I think it's incumbent upon us as chair and liaison to that body to come back and to share what's happening with the work there. So I wanted to just take a few minutes, if I could, to once again kind of update the rest of the commissioners on the work that's happening there. And as you know, it's very science driven. So we did have a meeting earlier this month, and there are a few things I wanted to share with the commission. We had a very exhaustive lead scientist update on the status and the work that they're doing, but specifically to the issues that we've raised in this body here, and that is we had an update on the status of the Delta Social Science Task Force. Erik's been working diligently for quite some time to ensure that that gets embedded as part of the Delta Stewardship Council's work. And we've actually made a lot of progress in the last year. And we had a wonderful report on this status of the task force, final report. And I know that I believe, Erik, they're recruiting for the position to actually take on some of that work that aligns nicely with Delta as place, which we all talk about quite a bit. So that was exciting to see that come to fruition over the course of the last year. And I know, Skip, you were part of that conversation 2 years ago, I should say. So that's coming together nicely. We had the Delta Independent Science Board update, and a couple things that it's important for folks to know. So number one, the Independent Science Board provided a copy of a letter that they shared with the Department of Water Resources regarding the notice of preparation for the Delta Conveyance Project. And the letter, in essence, signals loud and clear that the ISB will be reviewing the project and using the all best available science. So there was some question as to whether or not the ISB would be involved in that. That is the case. They do plan to review it, and they will be applying the best available science. And then also the Delta Stewardship Council indicated to DWR that because this project is a covered action, there will be, in the event that they're interested in it, early consultation provided to the Department of Water Resources, in large part to avoid what happened last time. So that hand has been extended to DWR in the event that they want to take advantage of the early consultation services that staff provides at the Stewardship Council. So more to come on that. And then let's see what else I got here. A couple other things that we did. And then, oh yeah, Eric will talk about this a little bit later, I think, on the next item. But based on a recommendation from the Independent Science Board, the Delta Stewardship Council now has a new lead scientist for the Delta Science Program, and her Dr. Laurel Larson is Associate Professor at UC Berkeley. And so Eric will speak a little bit more about that. So that was on the first day. The second day, and I'll just go over this very quickly because again, this is a reflection of the work that we do here on this body. And we sent a letter to the Delta Stewardship Council late April. And the second day of the meetings included providing authorization to staff to commence the CEQA review of the draft ecosystem amendment as the proposed project. And as you know, there's a lot of reviews occurring. Chapter 4 of the Delta Plan is under review. And so we essentially, after a presentation, gave staff the authority to move into the CEQA review process for the ecosystem amendment. And the reason I want to bring that up is because the letter that we sent here on behalf of the Delta Protection Commission indicated there were several things we wanted to see as part of the review of the Chapter 4 of the Delta Plan. And I believe, I felt certainly walking away from the meeting that in large part the Delta Stewardship Council had begun to address much of what we had asked for. And so just very quickly, and I'll wrap it up in less than a minute here, the ecosystem project, they need to ensure that they're avoiding conflicts with local, general, or specific plans. That's an issue that's near and dear to us here on this body. And we just want to make sure that the state's actions avoid conflict, and so that they actually understand what the general plans and specific plans say, the work that's gone into them, and they don't just run roughshod. So I think they've made a lot of progress to date on that item. The next item that we addressed in our letter was that DWR continue using their good neighbor checklist, and you're all familiar with that. I think we shared it at a previous meeting. So good progress has been made on that. And then one of the recommendations that we provided was using the resource conservation districts as the best agency to work with local and private landowners supporting ag land management. And so a lot of progress has been made on that item as well. And then the final one is continued discussion and evaluation of setback levies and the distinction between rural and urban areas. So, you know, one size does not fit all. And so I think in summary, I felt as though staff had done a good job of addressing a lot of the concerns that we raised in that letter in April. So I feel pretty good about it. Again, we're going to get another bite at the apple because the CEQA process is just beginning. But I wanted to just let the board know the work, or the commission know the work that we've done to date on the Stewardship Council. So, all right, that is my update, unless there are any questions by anybody.
Again, if you're on the phone, it's #2 to raise your hands if you'd like to speak on this item.
There's one hand raised. If you'd like me to unmute it, I'll start with the first hand raised.
All right, please do. And if you identify
Bill Wells.
yourself, yeah, if you'll identify yourself before you speak for the benefit.
All right, thank you very much. Bill Wells here. Forgive me, I guess I missed the original public comment, but I'd like to, as my comment, say that we've had an ongoing transportation disaster in around the Highway 12, Highway 160 area for the last over a year now, with the ferry boats being down and the bridge work. So I'd like to recommend that you make this a monthly item on the DPC agenda until we can come up with some resolution for it. I just, the Highway 12 bridge was closed last weekend, and I just got another notice that it's going to be closed during, or down to one lane during the next week after Memorial Day. So we're having fatal accidents, total traffic gridlock at times, and a huge discomfort to local businesses. So again, I would like to recommend that we make the transportation situation a monthly item on the DPC agenda. Thank you very much.
All right. Let's see. Sure. Thank you, Mr. Wells, for your comment. And Eric, maybe we'll talk offline a little bit about the status of that and how we might incorporate that into the work that we do here, so that we can get some updates and track the status of the Highway 12 situation.
I'm unmuting user 726 now.
Yes, hello, this is Barbara Daly.
So that's can you mute that? All right, that's not going to work. If there's a, you want to try that again, caller?
She might have her computer on at the same time, and that's what's feeding back into her phone.
Okay. Who's the caller? Do we have a name?
That was Barbara Daly, a DPAC member. And
Okay, Barbara, we're having a hard time hearing you, Barbara. Do you have multiple items on at in the same location? Because if so, that might be what's causing the feedback. You want to try that again?
It looks like she actually may have dropped off. I don't see her in the list of the participants anymore.
Okay, well, we'll circle back. So we'll go ahead and move on to the chair's report. Oh, excuse me, let's see.
Well, her computer audio is still connected under B Daily. I just unmuted B Daily as a computer user if there's a microphone on there.
Barbara, are you with us now? Yeah, if she doesn't have a microphone, that's not going to work as well. All right, well, we'll circle back. We are going to move on to item 5, which is commission comments and announcements. Are there any commission members who want to share anything with the rest of the body or the public?
Mr. Chair, this is Skip. If I can make a comment or two.
Of course.
I guess this question might be for Assembly Member Frazier, but I'll address it to Eric and we'll go from there. Bill Wells started off an issue that I'm getting a lot of calls about, and that's the Real McCoy ferry that's down all the time. And I was wondering if, Eric, have you had a chance or have you looked into the issue, or Assembly Member Frazier, maybe you have some insight into how we can correct this, because it is a major problem for those living in the Delta.
This is Assembly Member Jim Frazier. So Skip, yeah, I've been in direct contact with the Executive Director of Caltrans. Tokes and I have been talking about this issue. I have them researching the possibility of an alternative way of travel via bridge and getting costs for it. The ferry's been a boondoggle for many, many years. If you actually do the accounting on this thing, the cost per ride is astronomical. So I've had it up to here with it. I'm working with the Executive Director of Caltrans, and we're trying to come to a resolution.
All right, Jim. Keep us posted, and maybe Bill's suggestion about a monthly update on transportation issues in the Delta would be helpful. Thank you.
Very good. All right, thank you, Skip.
Well, we do have Danny Mack as a commissioner, so he would be very paramount as for updates on 12160 and all of that. So
Absolutely. Yep. Okay, well, yeah, we'll follow up that, because I've heard that as well, and I've received some calls as well, and I know it's been on the news quite a bit, but that doesn't help folks that need it as a major corridor for getting through the Delta. All right, then any other announcements or comments by any of the members of the commission?
Mr. Chair, this is Dan McElhenney.
Yeah, Dan, good evening.
In support of Assembly Member Frazier, you definitely, our director, Elmer Shotgun, and our local district director, Tony Tavares, and our Delta Executive Steering Committee has kept this a high priority, even with the issues recently on COVID-19 safety. And I know I've given my comments on some follow-up in support of the assembly member, and so it's a high priority for us. And if it was a regular item, then we could start planning for key staff to come in and talk from public affairs as well as the district director's office. So that's a great idea. Thank you.
Well, if there's interest, maybe we make that request, Eric. I mean, I think it's been going on for a little bit, so it wouldn't be a bad idea. We have a commissioner representing Caltrans, and I think it's come up more than a handful of times. So maybe having getting some feedback from Caltrans on the status of what that looks like. We know there's some challenges there, so maybe that's not a bad idea.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, this is Erik Vink. Certainly, regular reporting on this at commission meetings, I think, would be in order. And I do appreciate the efforts of Assemblyman Frazier and his staff to request information from Caltrans. Some of that information was shared with me. It's pretty eye-opening, the amount of time that the ferry has been offline the last couple of years, and it's become leagues worse over the last couple of years, as opposed to going back years prior to that. So I hear the concerns loud and clear coming from Bill Wells, and I'm sure that's what Barbara Daly would have commented on. And I've spoken to Nikki Seward from Snug Harbor about this as well. So I'm working on a communication to Caltrans. It really builds off of the communications that Assemblyman Frazier has had, and I'll report back on those.
Okay, very good. That sounds good. Thank you, Mr. Wells, for bringing that up. All right, that takes us to item 6, which is the consent agenda. Let's see. All we have are minutes. So we're looking for comments, questions, or a vote or a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
All right, so we need names of the motion makers and the seconds, please.
Cabalden moved.
Supervisor Burgess, second.
All right, so Cabalden with a motion, Burgess with a second, and we do need to do a roll call vote. So, Madam Clerk, if you could take care of that.
I got a vote, so just hang on a second.
Okay, I will go ahead and also read expected commissioners who weren't present during roll call in case anybody has joined us in process. Starting with Chair Villegas.
Yes.
Vice Chair Natoli.
Aye.
Commissioner Wynn.
Yes.
Commissioner Burgess.
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson. Making sure he's here and unmuted. Commissioner
I'm here.
Thompson.
Yes. Sorry.
Thank you. Commissioner Krieg.
Yes.
Commissioner Cabalden.
Yes.
Commissioner Nakanishi. Commissioner Paroli. Commissioner Slater.
Was not present.
I'm sorry, who was that?
Are we approving the minutes?
We are approving the minutes, yes.
No, I was not present at the previous.
Okay, how?
Yeah, we can do
Is that a refrain?
Sure.
Abstain? Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Commissioner Ruiz? Commissioner McElhenney?
Yes.
Commissioner Lester Moffitt?
Yes.
Commissioner Vogel?
Yes.
Commissioner Bush?
Yes.
Thank you. One moment, please. Mr. Chair, I have 11 yeses, 0 noes, and 1 abstain.
All right, very good. Thank you, Stacy, for that. So that motion carries. So we have our minutes in the books. All right, item 7 is Executive Director Report. Eric, that's
Chair
you.
Villegas, I do have a written comment in the chat from Barbara Daly.
Okay.
Is that something you can view, or would
So-
you like it read out?
Well, is that specific to a particular item, or is that just under public testimony?
It was under the public comment.
Okay. All right. Yep. We can take that now, I guess. Yeah, that's fine. Are you asking if I can read it, or did you want to just post it, or what was the question exactly?
As a co-host, I thought you may be able to see the chat, but if not, I'll read it for you.
No, I cannot.
Okay, it says, yes, DSC wants to address avoiding conflict with local general specific plans. The SEC committee members are being asked questions to choose which intake sites they recommend on behalf of the Delta. They've not been notified about the Delta Plan Policy P2, which states they must locate facilities at sites that would reduce or avoid conflicts with existing uses. This requirement was never explained to the Stakeholder Engagement Committee members.
All right. Those are the comments.
Also, SEC is suggesting that there be thereby a community benefits program to avoid community effects through siting facilities, and is against Delta Plan Policy P2. And Nikki Seward would like to be recognized to state a comment as well. She says her raise hand is not functioning.
Okay.
So if James could find Ms. Seward, please.
I'm looking now. Am I missing something? I don't see her in our participants list.
Is she calling in on the phone only?
Spelled
I just-
S-U-A-R-D.
Yeah, I just found her.
Seward, okay.
Oh,
There we go.
Yep.
I believe I've been unmuted. This is Nikki Seward?
Yep, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Thank you. I have been trying to type a message to you guys. Some people don't have the raise hand function for some reason, and I have the full Zoom account, so I don't know why it's not there. That means it's not on the administrators end that hand isn't showing. I just want to support the concept of having the transportation issue continue to be on the agendas each meeting until these issues get resolved.
All right. Very good. Sounds like we're moving in that direction. Thank you for your comments, Nick. All right. Okay. So Eric, if you want to move on, we'll move to item 7, which is your report. You want to take it away?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And just also a reminder, if any commission members, we did have a few that we did not record during roll call. If any are on the phone and we've not yet been able to recognize you, or you've not been able to unmute, please press #2 so that we know that you're there on the phone. Thank you. Just a few items from my report I'd like to share with the commission members. First off, regarding Delta Conveyance Project, following the April 9th commission meeting, I provided a letter addressed to DWR Director Namath and Design and Construction Authority Executive Director Mallon, requesting a pause in Delta conveyance planning during the COVID-19 stay-at-home orders. This was something the commission had quite a bit of discussion over during the April 9th meeting. That same week, we also finalized our notice of preparation comment letter, which was rather extensive. Both of those letters were shared with commission members. And if anyone did not recall seeing those and would like to see them, I would be happy to send those along. It's worth noting that the Stakeholder Engagement Committee meetings have continued. There was one in late April. There's another scheduled for next week. Moving along to the Delta Heritage Forum, we've decided to postpone the forum. It was originally scheduled for early June. we're looking to conduct that third annual event in November. This is an opportunity for people from throughout the Delta region to share stories, learn from each other about Delta heritage and history, and it's an important component of our ongoing planning work related to the National Heritage Area Management Plan. Moving on to talk a little bit about internal matters at the Commission. We are interviewing for a new Commission clerk. Those interviews will be conducted next week. We received ample applications for that position, and we're hopeful about finding a good candidate. We're working to fill the open program manager position created by the departure of Melinda Doran, moving over to Department of Water Resources to work on salt and sea issues. We are still awaiting a further direction about the revised fiscal year 2021 budget. We know the governor has announced that there are 10% salary reductions. We're not sure the details of that, but I don't anticipate that that will change shape once the budget is, excuse me, once the budget is finally adopted, understanding the severe fiscal constraints that the state is under. And just related to those severe fiscal constraints, because they're caused by COVID-19, I just wanted to say a little bit about the Commission staff. We are teleworking at this point. On occasion, we are in the office. Sometimes there's several of us in the office, and it almost feels like old times. But for the most part, we are working remotely with occasional visits to the office. That will continue basically until we get direction from CalHR about how we can again return to the office and under what conditions. So I'll continue to keep you posted on that, but as of now, we continue to telework. We are keeping a close eye on what's going on within the office. I think primarily we're feeling the effects of this through the inability to get out and to meet in person. That's a real constraint, and one that I hope we have some relief on soon, because it's very difficult to do our work without that ability. Moving away from Commission operations, just a little bit more about Dr. Laurel Larson, the new Delta lead scientist whose appointment was approved at last month's Delta Stewardship Council meeting. She has joint appointments at UC Berkeley in both the departments of Geography and Civil and Environmental Engineering. She has experience in the Everglades, the Mississippi Delta, and the California Delta. So she has pretty broad experience throughout the important Delta regions in the country. And I have not yet met Dr. Larson. I look forward to the opportunity to meet her and hopefully to be able to work with her and others as we advance social science research through the Delta Science program. And with that, Mr. Chair, I have nothing else to add. I included in my executive director report is a commission projects update. It doesn't look a lot different from what I had prepared for April 9th, but there are some updates in there, in some cases indicating where we're either dealing with cancellations or postponements or contemplating them. And we're doing the best we can to divine what the future may hold in terms of lifting a stay of home orders and under what conditions we can go back to what was normal for us before. But unless there are any questions about that, Mr. Chair, that concludes my report. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Eric. Are there any questions of Eric's report? Any of the commissioners? Hearing none. Is there any public comment, Eric?
There's a chat that I gave to Eric. from Barbara Daly
Okay.
in the chat.
Yeah, this just builds off of the comment I made about the letter following the discussion at the last commission meeting requesting a suspension of public processes until the COVID-19 stay-at-place orders are lifted. North Delta Cares, one of the community groups based out of Clarksburg, also sent a similar communication. And as was indicated from Barbara Daly, but as I can attest as well, I've not received a response. They've not received a response. There's no indication that those any of those public processes are being postponed or halted in any way. The Stakeholder Engagement Committee for the Design and Construction Authority will meet again next week via remote webcast and telephone communication. So that's the only comment that was offered up from Barbara Daly.
Got it. And thank you, Ms. Daly, for your comment. Just so that the commission knows, the Delta Counties Coalition also made a similar request. We did get a response and from DWR that they, for a lot of reasons, felt that it was essential for the construction work to continue, and so that process I don't believe is going to get slowed down anytime soon. So that's my sense, at least from the correspondence that we received. Any other comments or questions regarding Eric's report? All right, if not, that's item 7. So item 8 is the DPAC appointments. Eric, do you want to speak to that? Can't hear a thing. There we go.
Sorry about that. I thought I clicked. Thank you, Mr. Chair. As commission members know, our statute requires the commission to appoint at least one advisory committee to provide recommendations regarding the diverse interests in the Delta. And for 6 years now, we've had a reformulated Delta Protection Advisory Committee that has been meeting regularly and been providing input to the commission. Appointees to that advisory committees have historically served for 3-year terms. 6 years ago, in May of 2014, the original suite of advisory committee members were appointed. Some of those members have since been reappointed. Some members have resigned and been replaced. We solicited for, we currently have 13 of the 15 committee members, excuse me, who have terms expiring in May of 2020. We put out a call for nominations to the advisory committee. We received 24 nominations, including requests to be reappointed by current members of the advisory committee. Excuse me. And we received 24 applications. I'll go through the different proposed appointments. They cover almost every category of advisory committee member. Again, I said 13 of 15. We do have 2 advisory committee members who are currently mid-term in their appointments, including our recreation representative, Kathy Bunton, and our Delta water exporter representative, Russ Ryan. I had a chance to go over the applications with the commission chair and vice chair, and the recommendations for appointment are included within the staff report that's part of the commission packet. And this won't take long at all, but if I could just read them real quickly. The other thing worth noting is that these appointments are for terms ranging from 1 to 3 years. and that was due as a result of a change in the charter for the advisory committee that is trying to create a staggered membership so that instead of every 3 years, we bring the bulk of the appointments to you, that each year in May, we'll have approximately 5 members of the advisory committee that will have a term up for either appointment of a new member or reappointment of an existing member. So let me just read out the proposed appointments, and then I would ask the commission for a motion to adopt these appointments to the committee. Delta Business Representative for a 1-year term, Gilbert Labrie. He's a current member of the committee. A Delta Business Representative for a 2-year term, Barbara Daly. She is a member of the committee currently. Delta Agriculture Representative for a 1-year term, David Strecker. He is a current member of the committee. Delta Agriculture Representative for a 3-year term, Lindsay Liebig. She's with the head of the Sacramento County Farm Bureau. Delta Recreation Representative, a 3-year term. This is a new appointment, Todd Bruce, who is a Vacaville resident and an avid Delta recreationist. Delta Habitat and Conservation Non-Governmental Organization Representative for a 1-year term, Craig Watanabe, who's a current DPAC member. Delta Habitat and Conservation Non-Governmental Organization Representative for a 2-year term, Jim Cox, who heads up the California Striped Bass Association. A state agency representative for a 1-year term, Jim Starr, who is a current DPAC member from Department of Fish and Wildlife. The second state agency representative for a 3-year term, Edward Hard, who is a current DPAC member and is with the Division of Boating and Waterways within state parks. Delta Flood Entity Representative for a 2-year term, Chris Elias with San Joaquin Area Flood Control Agency. Delta Organization Representative for a 3-year term, Mariah Looney, who's with Restore the Delta. Delta General Public Representative for a 2-year term, Mark Pruner, who is both a current DPAC member and chair. And a Delta Utilities and Related Infrastructure Representative for a 2-year term, Sam Garcia, who is a current DPAC member. And in addition, we put the call out for a few ex officio members, and we're recommending the appointment of Douglas Shaw from the Locke Foundation as the Delta Cultural Preservation Representative for a 3-year term. So, Mr. Chair and Commission members, that's the recommendations and seeking approval of those appointments to the Delta Protection Advisory Committee.
Very good. Thank you, Eric. I know you spent a lot of time sifting through the applications. We had a good, robust set of applicants. Vice Chair Natoli, did you want to say anything about the work that went into the appointments?
Sure, I would just echo what you said, and certainly a really good pool of applicants. Obviously, more folks applying for the positions and obviously available seats to fill, but I think the continuity of certainly some of those that continue, the addition of others that are coming on for the first time, and I think just the general interest in the advisory committee and its activities and work on behalf of the the commission, but certainly the people of the Delta and the various interests that are represented really came through very, very clearly in the applications and obviously the recommendations before us today. So thanks for your work, and thanks to Eric and for all the folks who, whether they're being recommended for appointment or not, for their ongoing interest and work in the various facets of daily life in the Delta. So I'm again very pleased that we had such a good, strong pool of folks that were interested.
All right, everybody should have a copy of the list. And so, are there any questions or comments regarding the list that's recommended, proposed before us?
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I do. Eric, did you indicate that the members can be reappointed for a second consecutive term, or for an unlimited number of consecutive terms?
Yeah, Commissioner Cabalden, there are no limits on reappointment to the advisory committee. That's as currently stated in the charter.
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, I was also really encouraged to see the number and the range of applicants, and looking through, even the summary that you provided was really helpful in seeing, seeing confirmed the remarkable diversity of different kinds of everything. Right? So we in all of our work, we're like, oh, there's recreation, but there's like 700 different kinds of recreation in 700 different places. And I do think it's important. One of the great values of the advisory committee is that it provides perspective and advice outside of the normal, our normal circles of the same Delta stakeholders and participants and leaders all of the time. And so shuffling the deck in order to provide some novel voices and new folks to participate, I think is really important. And balancing that with, as the vice chair said, in terms of expertise. So I want to just urge us as we continue that this round, in future rounds, to think about carefully at that balance. I think 8 of the 13 that are proposed here today are reappointments, which if I were just doing it in the abstract, not doing all the work that the chair and the vice chair and the executive director did, I might tune that slightly differently. On the other hand, I'm really encouraged to see that in the way that you've allocated the terms, it appears as though you did take that into consideration, and that the longer term, most of the longer term, the 3 full year terms that you've assigned here are assigned to folks that are new to the advisory committee. And so it looks as though you're taking that into account, and just want to say thanks for that, and just to encourage us to continue to get out of our box and to keep creating opportunities for the variety of voices inside the Delta to be heard through this committee. And with that, I do support it. And if there's not other comments, I'm happy to make a motion as well.
Right. Do we have any public comments on this item, Eric? Can you see?
I don't see any hands raised.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So seeing no public comments, if there are no commissioner comments, we have a motion by Commissioner Cabalden. Is there a second?
I second it.
And that was
Natoli.
Don, sorry.
All right.
Don, I'm looking for opportunities to give you a hard time about your flip phone, and I just can't keep going back to that well every time. So thanks, Don. All right, so we have a motion by Commissioner Cabalden, second by Commissioner Vice Chair Natoli. All those in, we're going to do a roll call vote. So Stacy, that's you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Starting with Chair Villegas.
Yes.
Vice Chair Natoli.
Aye.
Commissioner Wynn.
Yes.
Commissioner Burgess.
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson.
Yes.
Commissioner Krieg.
Yes.
Commissioner Cabalden.
Yes.
Commissioner Nakanishi. Commissioner Paroli. Commissioner Slater.
Yes.
Commissioner Ruiz. Commissioner McElhenney.
Yes.
Commissioner Lester Moffitt.
Yes.
Commissioner Vogel.
Yes.
Commissioner Bush.
Yes.
One moment, please. Mr. Chair, we have 12 yeses, 0 noes, and 0 abstains.
Perfect. Thank you, Stacy. So those DPAC appointments are adopted as proposed. Thank you, Eric. I know you spent a lot of time. I know you, you spent a lot of time. It's a great diverse group of folks who are going to do wonderful work. So, all right, that's item 8. Item 9 is the update on the Frank's Tract Futures project. And so Carl Wilcox from Department of Fish and Wildlife and Brett Milligan from UC Davis Department of Human Ecology will provide information only update on the Frank's Tract Futures project. Eric, are they with us? Yep, I'm thinking.
They've been
Yes.
both unmuted.
Perfect. Okay, welcome,
Yeah.
gentlemen.
Thank you. This is Carl Wilcox with the Department of Fish and Wildlife. Thank you, Chairman Diegues, commissioners. We appreciate the opportunity to make this presentation. This is a second phase of planning for potential futures for Frank's Tract. This follows up on a feasibility study that was done back in 2018. And what we're trying to do here is really follow through on the principles of the Delta Conservation Framework and really focus on planning with the local community to address their issues as part of any kind of restoration of in Frank's Tract. And also it's a different way of looking at ecological restoration in that this would be a major shift in the way we would look at restoring habitat in the Delta. It focuses on existing public land and really changing a system that occurred by happenstance and in many cases is degrading due to aquatic weeds and or the deterioration of the levees on the site. So we're trying to roll many things together, and it's a very ambitious effort and really just sets the stage for subsequent planning as it noted in the agenda item briefing for the commission. With that, I'll turn it over to Brett to go through the presentation.
Hi, this is Brett. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, just wanted to make sure before I started. Okay, so could someone advance to the next slide for me, please? Yeah, so Carl pretty much covered this. This whole project emerged from the Delta Smelt Resiliency Strategy and has evolved considerably since that time in 2016 as it went through the feasibility report, where there was a design that worked from the water quality and ecological point of view, but there was a lot of dissatisfaction from the local community about how it might affect the marinas and recreation out there, which has led to our current planning effort that's called Frank's Tract Futures. Next slide, please. And so the project goals have expanded along with that evolution, and this is our sort of overall project statement, which is to provide enhanced recreational opportunities and other community benefits, to benefit native and desirable species by reestablishing natural ecological processes and habitats, and to improve water quality. So if we break out of that into the different metrics and objectives of those goals, we have recreation, navigation, local economy, ecology, water supply, levee and flood protection, and considerations about project cost. So in our process, we've broken this down into a series of charts, and there's about 27 different things that this leads to, but you can see how the project has really tried to balance all of these and to provide all these services as a comprehensive project. Next slide, please. And we've done this through structured decision making. I'm not sure how familiar folks are with this, where this is where you engage the public along with having an advisory committee and a steering committee. And through that, you are very transparent in setting what your objectives are through that input of all of those entities, and then working towards, once you've created those objectives, through an engagement process of trying to fulfill them through the design process, an iterative design process that you go through. So this is showing the general process of how that happens with these different groups. The DPC is on our steering committee. Next slide, please. These are just some images of that. We started the project off with a public meeting on Bethel Island. We had about 150 people there to sort of say where we had ended off on the feasibility study going into this project. And then what you see on the other side are these smaller advisory committee meetings where we have representatives from the community, such as fisher folk, hunters, local marinas, parks, and other folks there to help us guide us through the design process. Next slide, please. So as part of this, we also did user surveys where we put this out to the public. We had a lot of feedback and really trying to make sure we really understand how people are using the Tract in various ways. And this was a geospatial app that you could do on your phone or computer. I'm just going to show a couple slides from this. We got a lot of data from this, but this was sort of asking people, how do you recreate in the Tract and where? So you can see in the legend there, this includes boating, canoeing, fishing, hunting, jet skiing, kayaking, kiteboarding, picnicking, etc. So this gave us an idea of how and where people are using it. Next slide, please. This is what are your boating routes across and within the Tract? Gives you a sense of how many people responded to the survey. So we know that boating and navigability is one of the key concerns of all the stakeholders out here that have sort of developed around this open track since the 30s, and was a key concern going forward. So this is some of the data that we got and some of the input from the public and stakeholders going into this round of the design. Next slide, please. And so in this round, we started off very broad with 7 different concepts. One of them being a no action alternative, which we've carried all the way through. What is Frank's Tract if we just leave it be? And we know that even if we let Frank's Tract be, it's changing very fast in terms of more and more aquatic weeds, water quality, all kinds of things like that. But that's one we've kept through. And then you see we started with these 6 different designs, some of them which met project objectives, but some of them didn't. But it's really a project of trying to figure out how to arrange these masses of land where the tidal wetlands would be to meet these different project objectives. So we started here. Next slide, please. And what we've whittled it down to is the no action alternative and 3 refined designs. So what I'll do is I'll go through these 3 ones, the open water berm and channel, the central landmass and eastern landmass real quick, and sort of talk about commonalities and differences. So next slide, please. So the open water berm and channel, what you'll see in all of these, the green areas are where we're proposing to fill in and create these tidal wetlands with upland areas, and you can see the white channels within them. You'll see the darker areas where you see a dashed line around them. What this would basically be is a cut and fill operation where we would dig down in those dashed areas, those are the dredged areas, to build these land masses. The benefit there is as we dredge down, you make the water deeper and hopefully get rid of a lot of the aquatic weeds if you go down to as far as minus 25 feet. So that'll actually improve navigability. The white crosses you see on Bethel Island, those are showing us the main access points of the marinas, which would be, we're really looking out for them to make sure that they maintain the access that they like. And then you'll see the little yellow dots and the orange lines on there. Those are areas where we're considering, or those are recreational features, often consisting of beaches with upland areas and picnic areas, and in some of them potential camping areas. Many of these with a mooring field adjacent to them, so the recreation is woven into the design. What you'll see in this one for Little Frank's Tract, if you're familiar with the area, is we had a lot of consensus around keeping that as a non-motorized boating area. So half of it would be tidal wetland, the other half would be dedicated to non-motorized boating. A lot of the Bethel Island community did not want the wetlands adjacent to them, so this moves it up and away and up into the northern part of the tract where people were less concerned about that interfering with boating. And then you see there's a central pathway through that you can get through it to get from one side of the tract to the other. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, this one's called the central landmass. You can see it's a different configuration. Little Frank's Tract is the same, Bethel Island. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention, sorry. You'll see that we're showing the levees in front of Bethel Island, and part of the project, those are the remnant levees from the tract that those marinas all depend on for wave protection. So in all of the project alternatives, we are bolstering those and increasing them so that there is protection on Bethel Island from that wave fetch. So in this design, you see that basically the track is split into 2. So that barrier is sort of going through the middle. Could you go back one? Sorry. Yeah. And again, you see the different beaches that have been arranged strategically where people could use them. This has been really popular with a lot of stakeholders in the marinas because you get this nice deepened pool of water in front of Bethel Island, and then you have a secondary one on the other side for recreation, and that recreational pool would get some shielding from the wind based on that landmass C that's adjacent to it. And then down at the bottom, we're proposing a potential access area on the north tip of Holland Island, which would be where state parks, this is again a state recreation area, would have a staging area potentially there to manage this whole area. So that's a second version. And then if you could go to the next slide, please. Here in this one, you see the landmass has been pushed all the way to the eastern edge. Like the last one, it has 2 navigable channels through it. Same treatment for Little Frank's Tract. You see a large mooring area and a beach up in the north. And again, with the wetlands arranged that way. So out of these 3 from both the advisory committee and the steering committee, the one that was before this, the central landmass, is by far the preferred alternative amongst the group so far in terms of all the different features. Next slide, please. This is just a sort of summary graphic about the ecological criteria. Again, this started with Delta smelt and broadened out much wider to include Chinook salmon, largemouth bass, striped bass, as well as waterfowl. Those latter 3 being the sort of the sport fisheries, as well as the hunting, the hunters who use this and creating some upland habitat for the waterfowl. So if you, this is just a small little segment from our larger grids that we've set up through the structured decision making, but really looking at the performance of those concepts versus no action, with green being better, red being less preferred. So it's actually creating a lot of diversified habitat in what is otherwise a sort of homogeneous tract at the moment. Next slide, please. This is just showing one example from the modeling done by the Department of Water Resources, looking at water quality and velocities. This is looking at water quality, and this was part of our iterative design of looking at how to arrange these features to actually improve water quality through the Delta. The good news is all 3 of these designs that I just showed work. We got lucky that the central landmass, option B, actually works the best, and it also just happens to be preferred for all of the other reasons by the different stakeholders involved in this process so far. So we're looking at both water quality, and velocity is also a big concern to make sure that it doesn't affect boating negatively. So basically with these channels that cut through between the wetlands, looking at the optimal width and depth to achieve that. So we're looking at channels that are at least 100 meters wide at the bottom and slightly deeper than what they are now in terms of the tract. And next slide, please. So what's next? Erik mentioned the difficulty of trying to engage folks when you can't actually see them in person. And right when COVID hit, that is right when we were about to go back to the public with these designs. So what we've been working on the last 2 months is an online interface where people will actually be able to go on, kind of like our initial survey, and go in and be able to rate all these different designs. We have fly-throughs that you can actually see how they work, and some renderings and things like that. In lieu of a public meeting, because that's months and months out from everything we know before that's even possible. So that's our next stage in this, is to take this to the public and have a webinar, and then people can fill out the survey as they wish, and we'll take it from there. And then, as Carl mentioned, as any of this goes forward, it'll go into a more EIR sort of kind of process, but there'll be a report that comes out of this that will inform that. Next slide. And I think that's it. It should be. Yeah, so that was a very high up overview of the whole project, and I think Carl and I are happy to take any questions.
Okay, very good. Well, thank you, gentlemen. That's very helpful. Are there any questions from any members of the commission? Erik, do we have any members of the public? I see a hand here. Mr. Wells?
I'll unmute Bill.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Hi, Carl and Brett. In 2018, you talked about putting in 20 million cubic yards of locally dredged material. So would all the material that you're going to use to build the land masses come out of Frank's Tract itself?
In the latest talks that we've had with Carl, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the engineer, our consultant, Moffett and Nickel, they basically, yeah, that's how we've partially determined the size of those areas for the dredging, so that it would be pretty much a cut and fill operation.
Okay, so there's I've heard a lot of rumors that there's, the DCA was planning to dump some of their toxic material from the tunnels in there. So that plan has been abandoned?
Well, Bill, this is Carl Wilcox. I think when we went through the process last time, it became apparent that importing material other than material to build initial berms and that kind of thing was really cost prohibitive, and that by dredging within the tract itself to get material to do the fill really provided extra benefits particularly from a weed control perspective, but also improving open water conditions within the site. So I think, from that perspective, hasn't been a consideration as we've gone through this process. There will be a need for some material to come initially from someplace else that's more constructible to set some of these berms, containment berms for the on-site fill, but there's no connection with tunnel material and particularly material that might have some level of contamination.
Okay, thank you. Well, just one other question, if I could. What, in your folks' opinion, what percentage of the people on Bethel Island would you say are in favor of filling in Frank's Tract? When I talk to them, everybody wants to. What they want to do is dredge the invasive plants out of there and then leave it alone.
I can't say we know. I mean, that, Bill, you're right. You're right where we're at, where we're trying to go back to the public with it. And I mean, we've been working with our advisory committee is made up of lots of the folks who have concerns out here. We have representation from the marinas, local residents, the local yacht, the San Joaquin Yacht Club. We have hunters on board. We have all of them. And I would say, I mean, that's been our process, is really working with them and what their concerns were. And like the bass sport fishery folks, all of them. And that, I don't know how to describe it without actually going through all of that, how we got there, but there's been a lot of their concerns are what we tried to address, and the designs we have now are very different from where we started. And so those folks, I can speak to them that they are very excited about the design, and many of them at first were not. But that is our next goal, is to reach out to the larger public and to get their thoughts. And that was our next stage. And it's just we're getting there. It's just we got pushed back a little bit by the crisis that's going on with COVID.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Sure.
One other person has raised their hand, Seward. I'm going to unmute.
So I unmute.
Very good. Yep, Stewart, welcome.
You can hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I have a question then for Mr. Wilcox. In 2005, 2007, 2009, and 2014, proposals for barriers around the Frank's Tract area, including Falls River, to protect from saltwater intrusion. Will this replace any of those barrier proposals?
I think one of the reasons we've focused on the water quality benefits are the ability to limit salinity intrusion and the need for the barrier that was constructed in 2015. We're, at this point, this is a totally different way of looking at those kinds of issues as well as restoration than what was done back in the 2004 to 2006 period. So that was in the past, and we have, for this effort, focused more on a biologically driven type of approach that has morphed into a broader community-based approach to looking at these issues and trying to solve multiple needs through one consolidated project, as opposed to just focusing on one aspect, which back then was water quality.
Well, that sounds like a very good approach. But I do know that like USBR pulled a permit to put a barrier across 3 Mile Slough. Will they not be doing that then?
Currently, I'm unaware of any plans to do anything at 3 Mile Slough. That was something that was pursued by DWR up until probably the end of the last decade.
No. I can send you the copies of the EIR and the drawings that were pulled by you. You know, they submitted the plans in 2016, right during the water fix hearings.
They may have, but as far as I'm aware, there are no plans for 3 Mile Slough.
Bridge, our barrier. That's great.
Barrier, right.
That's great.
All right. Okay, Mr. Stewart, thank you very much. Are there any other, I don't see any other public hands to comment on this item.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Just in a kind of a response to one of Bill Wells's questions earlier, I think, this is either going to go forward because there is broad support in the community and from other sectors, or this will be the end of efforts relative to Frank's Tract unless they're driven by some other process. But this is just to see if we can get to a point where there is something that has uniquely broad support within the community in the Delta for doing something that I think has benefits for the broader Delta community, the water community, and that kind of thing. So I think that's just the point to be made.
It's a good point to be made. Are there any comments or questions by any members of the commission?
Hi, this is Commissioner Burgess. I don't know how to raise my hand right now. I apologize.
That's okay, Diane. Yeah. Jump right in.
Sorry about that. I appreciate this presentation. There's a lot of mistrust. I got a lot of emails. There's concern that this project is connected to the effort to build the tunnel, and so there's just a lot of mistrust. But I do appreciate the presentation, and I will continue to work with them. I did talk to our county folks, and they were still waiting to have some updates as well. So those are my comments.
Thank you. That's always been a concern about the tunnels, and we've always tried to say, the tunnels no doubt impact what happens in the Delta and what happens here, but this is a sort of scoped project, and it can't really influence the tunnels, but that has definitely been a dialogue from the very start of this project.
Are there any other comments by any of the members of the commission? Well, gentlemen, thank you very much. This is obviously a very high-level presentation to see whether or not there's you guys can create some legs under it. I love the idea of multi-benefit projects, and it sounds like you're already thinking that way. The saltwater intrusion is one that obviously weighs very heavily on a lot of the policy considerations in the Delta, and so Ms. Burgess's district shall have plenty to say, and I suspect during your quest to try to get public input in light of the current situation where we're doing so much of this electronically, take advantage of it, because I think you're going to get potentially a lot of feedback. From what I understand, a lot of processes that have shifted to electronic means of incorporating public testimony, been surprised to see how much they will get. So good luck in that next quest.
Thank you. I hope you're right.
Yep. All right. Any final thoughts or comments on that item? If not, then we do not have a meeting in June. We have a meeting in July 16th. At the moment, it's either via Zoom or in person. It would be at the Gene Harvey Center in Walnut Grove, assuming that we can meet in person. But if not, I think this worked out pretty well. So any final thoughts, comments by any members of the commission? Eric, any final thoughts? Otherwise, I think this is a wrap.
No, Mr. Chair, and thank you, and thanks, commission members.
Okay, thank you, everybody. That adjourns. I believe we stand adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody.